first and take a look at that, because that typically is a major obstacle from all of us stepping into being the most confident being that we can be. And then I also want to talk about confidence and self-esteem, because, and I talk about that in my video that you guys have as part of the course. But having confidence doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have self-esteem and feel worthy and not doubt yourself. They're two separate things. We can have confidence in a skill or a job that we have, right? And perform at a top level. But when it comes to our confidence about who we are and how we express ourselves and how we show up in the world in other areas besides our work, right, can look completely different. Do you guys understand that? Does that make
Yeah, I
sense?
hadn't thought about that before. I thought it was kind of related, but now I see what you're saying. It's not in all areas. Self-esteem would be in your overall being. Confidence in everything, I guess.
Yes, and an example could be that, let's say you're a teacher, right? Debbie was a teacher. Let's say you're a teacher and you're really confident about the work you do when you show up every morning to teach those students, and you've got a plan and you just are killing it, right? But there is self-doubt and fear about stepping out into, let's say, something else that you want in life, or in a relationship or a dream. And then there's a lot of self-doubt around that, and a lot of fear and self-talk. So we're going to separate those so that you can actually see. So confidence isn't just a blanket that we wear, but it does have a different voice in the many aspects of life that we are in. So what I want to share with you, ladies, is that confidence is your superpower. It is your superpower. And when you can step into confidence, you can actually conquer and overcome anything. However, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And we know that fear is the enemy of excellence. Fear is the enemy of taking action. Fear is the enemy of being courageous. And it's the obstacle to building our confidence. It's actually the number one obstacle that keeps people from achieving their dreams and going after what they want and completing what they started. Does that make sense, you guys? Can you relate to that?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's like, what is fear? We imagine that fear is this big thing that, runs our life. But truly, what is it? It's really negative beliefs, it's self-doubt, and it's programming that wants a place to live and operate inside of our mind. And we're the ones who give it power. Because fear cannot operate on its own. We give it the power. So we either choose to operate from fear or from love. Okay? And so what that means is that if fear is false evidence appearing real, and it's not real, but in our subconscious and our reality, it is the choice that we've given to operate from, then life is going to look different than if we are operating from our subconscious and having control of our thoughts, right? So we can focus on fear and the past and the negative beliefs and the self-doubt, or we can step into positivity and create new beliefs. And we can do that. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, and reprogram our minds. But I want you to know that it's not your fault if you are operating from fear and if that has a hold on you. It's actually something that is considered like a weight from our past, right? And we carry around a negative self-image from our childhood. And we were tricked early on growing up by someone framing who we are based on their own fears. And they instilled in us a false belief that says you are not who you are. And, it's a negative false belief. Can you guys think of something that you were told when you were younger that is still with you today, that had a huge impact, and you actually believed it and you bought into it? But I want you to know that the good news is that you don't have to stay that way, and you don't have to continue to buy into that belief, because you are the master creator, and you've been creating all along as you are in this moment, right? And it's just that you were creating from a master plan of fear from your childhood, and you've been operating from it for so long that it's entrenched in you. And there's some work that needs to be done around it. And to find that particular negative self-image that is operating in your subconscious. And there's some forgiveness that's needed around that. And we do this kind of work in my 90-day program and my new group program that's coming up. That's going to be an 8-week program. So you really can't do this alone. It takes some work, and you need tools and strategies to be able to conquer that. But as a co-creator in life, you're going to be creating things, right? And you're going to be having it through a lens of either fear or positivity and love. And you're currently making choices now. And those things are either being created from fear-based or positive thoughts. And I want to share a verse from you that I find is really powerful to let you guys know that it's not only biblical, but it's in alignment with divine guidance that says, it's Deuteronomy 30:19 if you want to write it down. But it says, now I set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now you choose. So God has given us this beautiful life. When he created us in his self-image, and we were beautiful and innocent beings. But early on in life, we were basically tricked into operating from fear because of that root that happened in your childhood. And the interesting thing is, I don't know if you guys have ever done any studies around intergenerational trauma, but it's something that Michaela and I have been studying, working on, and stepping into to break the chain. It's something I was very cognizant of after my divorce, and even before I got my divorce, because I didn't want to pass it down to my 2 children. There comes a time in our life where intergenerational trauma and fear is so impactful that we feel imprisoned by it. And until we can become aware of it, understand that it exists, recognize it, and then step into it to acknowledge it and grow through it, it will always be there. And so Michaela and I both made a decision and a pact that we are here, and as part of both of our soul's journey is to break the intergenerational trauma in our family. And so in your innocence, in your childhood, in your inner child, in your little girl, when you were wounded back in the time, that wasn't intentional by whoever did that. They were just reflecting their fear and their own inner generational trauma on you. And if you look at that person now, they undoubtedly still carry it unless they work through it. And so when you come in contact with that person, or you're in a relationship with that person, that trauma can come up. I have someone that's been so impactful in my life on a very positive aspect, but also a very powerful negative and woundedness space, that it's really difficult to separate those two. But you can stand in your greatness and in your power when you can acknowledge it and then begin to work through that. And, again, you didn't know any better at the time, so you adopted the version of yourself and you've been living it your entire life with those beliefs. And so at that time, unbeknownst to you, you gave up your choice for a beautiful life and the choice of blessings that were your divine right. But it's not too late to change that. And it's not too late to embrace and adopt your divine right for blessings and living a life that you love. And some of this information I just shared with you came from a man named Billy Atwell. And I'm going to post the podcast that I listened to, that I extrapolated some of this wisdom from. I'm going to post it in the Self Love 1.0 Facebook page, and you can listen to it. It's very short, but he also added a meditation about how we can let go of that victimhood and that wound by listening to this meditation, which is only 5 minutes at night before we go to sleep and in the morning, and begin to rewire the neural pathways and begin to change those negative beliefs and that childhood trauma and rewire it with positive affirmations and beliefs. And that's why I really am so such an advocate of affirmations, because the brain really is full of plasticity. The research back in the day, they used to believe that the brain and the mind, what you have is what you've given and it can't be changed. And it's not true. The research shows that it can be changed. And that's what NLP is all about, is changing the rewiring. And that's what affirmations do. So hence, that's why meditation works and is such a blessing. And so I'll post that for you, and you can listen to it and learn from it. It's really fascinating. I just had a thought that went away, but so back to fear, and what does it have to do with confidence? Well, knowing that you were born and you were created in the image of God, what would it be like to be able to step back into that and own that instead of the old story that's not true about you? Own that you were made in perfection, that you are perfect, and see yourself in the eyes of God in the way that He sees you versus the way that other people see you. So fear is just something that, is there, but when we recognize it, we can have it take a back seat. We all have different fears. We have fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of incompletion, fear of distraction, fear of losing, fear of heartbreak, fear of uncertainty, and the list goes on. And I'm sure you could add some of your own here. Fear of instability, fear of winning, fear of not being enough, fear of being too much, fear of taking up too much space in the room. So, as Marianne Williamson said in her poem, her great poem, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us the most. And I love that poem, and I recite that almost on a daily basis to the point where I've memorized it all, and I might go back to it if we have time in the end. And so what I want to share with you is Wikipedia's definition of what is confidence. And Wikipedia says that confidence comes from a Latin word, fidere, which means to trust. Therefore, having self-confidence is having trust in one's self, right? And how often do we doubt ourselves? It's like in that movie, The Polar Express. And then when Tom Hanks went around and he clicked all those tickets and one of them said, believe, right? To that little girl, to believe. And she was always, not always, but often questioning herself, having self-doubt after making a decision or looking to someone else for confirmation, wondering. So self-confidence is having, if it's having trust in oneself, that means that we really want to learn and skill up on how to trust our intuition. And first of all, how to listen to it, right? We have to know how to listen to it first, and then trust it, and then act on it. And there's a quote in Isaiah 30:15 that says, "In quietness and confidence shall be your strength." And that resonates with the things that I said previously and even with Wikipedia's definition. Because having trust in oneself is believing in our own strength and having strength in trusting ourselves. And as we build that strength and that trust in ourselves, we become more confident. But the obstacles that get in the way are what we previously talked about is fear in all of those different arenas and our self-limiting beliefs. And so we need to be able to do the work around those so that we can step into trust and confidence and believe. And I teach that in my 90-day course. I'm going to be teaching that in the 8-week course that's coming up in group coaching, because if we can't love ourselves and develop self-confidence and learn how to trust our intuition, our inner knowing, and create that flow and that alignment with the divine. Because our subconscious is the portal and the gateway to the divine. And when that connection is there, there's our intuition and there's our inner wisdom and our voice that's directing us and telling us which way that we should go. But if we don't set aside that time for solitude and silence to just be and to listen and to see what shows up, then it's going to be very difficult for us to change our life. And that looks different for everybody. And it's not like when you sit in silence and solitude in a sacred place or space, all of a sudden a brick's going to fall down from heaven. It's going to be like this big aha. I mean, for some, but it takes practice, just like meditation and everything else. It just takes practice. And it doesn't mean that you have to cut out all the thoughts when you're meditating or sitting in silence, but just listen and be with what is. And I guarantee that if you do that over time, you will start hearing what divine has to share with you. And so I have some points here that I wanted to talk about and share with you, and then kind of take this from being this monologue to a dialogue with you to share what's come up for you and what's present for you, and we can talk about it. But some of the things that I wanted to share with you, some of the ways that confidence can look like, because if we haven't lived a life of self-confidence, we might not even recognize what it looks like to feel self-confidence. But the number one thing that comes up for me is owning your power. And that's easy to say, but what does that look like, right? And that's one of the biggest things that I teach in my courses, because if we can't own our power, then we can't step into our confidence. But as you begin to own your power, oh my God, your greatness just arises and comes up, and you own your power. And then another one is feeling wildly worthy. If we don't feel worthy of what we desire, of what we want, of our dreams, of who we want to be, then it won't be. It just won't come about. So feeling wildly worthy about who you are. I mean, you are a daughter of the King. He created you in all of his goodness and his image. You are absolutely worthy and deserving of your divine right that he has for you in the gifts. And another way that confidence looks like is being courageous, is embracing happiness, is living your life by design versus living your life by design, creating the life that you love versus living your life by default and just letting things happen. And another way that confidence looks like is you're experiencing fulfillment, and you're making your yes a hell yes, and you're making your no a hell no. You're standing in your truth. You're speaking your voice. You're listening to what your intuition is telling you, and you're not second guessing what's there for you. Because what's the worst that can happen if you actually speak your voice and you don't second guess what's present for you? The truth comes out. And if it's upon someone who doesn't want to receive it, that's their problem, you guys. It's not your business to worry about how other people receive you. It's not your business about how other people see you. It's not. It's their business. And another way to feel confident is choosing to take up space without asking for permission. So when you go into a room, feel free to take up space. If there's a chair at the table and you haven't been invited, or there's a conversation going on in a room and you haven't been invited, take up space, listen to your intuition, and go there and make space. Do not wait for the invitation. Make space for yourself, and I guarantee you'll be welcome. It is that voice of fear that holds us back, from rejection to all of those things. So don't let fear take over. You take up the space that you deserve, because people are waiting to hear from you. They want to hear what you have to say. And then also to accept those challenges, right? When we accept challenges on a daily basis, even in the smallest of increments, and then we succeed with them, our confidence builds in little steps. And then we feel more confident to take on the next challenge in a bigger way. And then contribution. So I love these two words, challenge and contribution, together, because oftentimes the beginning of greatness is when challenge and contribution become more important than comfort and ease. And it's really important to get comfortable with discomfort every day, a little bit more each day. Get comfortable with discomfort. Do something that is going to require a bit of a bold step, okay? And then owning your story. And that is so difficult for us to do because of shame, because of embarrassment, because we haven't accepted it and forgiven ourselves for our own story. But that is one of the most powerful things that you have. And you can turn your messiness into your mission. You can turn your pain into your passion. But this is your story, and we all have one. And stepping into that, embracing it, you guys, I can't tell you how freeing that is. I was so embarrassed and so shameful about my story for so long on so many different levels, starting in my childhood, that when I became brave and courageous enough to actually start writing it down and sharing it, there is an enormous expression of freedom that you get. And the only person that is putting you in that imprisonment is you. No one can release you from that. And so a couple more experiences that can help you feel confident is being comfortable in your own skin, loving yourself. And that goes back to self-love, yeah? And then knowing that it's okay to be wrong. So many of us are programmed to think, including me, this is my story, that I have to be right. Otherwise, I'm going to look stupid. And it's the furthest thing from the truth. And so it's important to know that it's okay to be wrong. And it's okay to know that we don't know everything. And the awareness of knowing that we don't know everything is the beginning of awareness, something like that. And then just to trust in the process and relinquish resistance. Because when resistance comes up, what resists persists. So when resistance comes up, I invite you to take a look at it and say hello to resistance, and then go underneath and find out what's underneath that resistance. And then when we can see what's underneath that and embrace it and accept it and put no further energy into that resistance, it dies, right? Only if we allow a resistance to continue that it will persist. When we give it energy to those things that keep coming up, we've got to settle with it and come to peace with it. And then it disappears. And then we can have confidence and not hit that obstacle anymore. And also, to be confident means that you can ask for help. You can ask for help from your team. You can ask for help from your family. You can ask for help from your friends. That's really stepping into confidence. Nothing ever great was done alone. It takes a tribe, to co-create greatness. And so those are some points about what does confidence look like. And I'm just going to run the next step I want to talk about are some things that self-confidence doesn't look like, just so you can identify these, um, with you if they pertain to you. But I'm sure, like last night, I sat down and I wrote both of these lists, and I was flabbergasted at how they all came out just like that. And I thought, wow. And then I also realized, you guys, that they came because I've been through this door. So they're ever present for me. And I learned from all of these. And what I just shared with you were things that I couldn't step into that look like confidence until I started doing the work and had the awareness around them. But here's just some things, and you could create your own list as well, as what self-confidence does not look like, that holds us back and that keeps us playing small from not playing big. One of them is negative self-talk. That's huge. And I talk about this in the course for confidence. You guys, you'll learn a lot in there, and you'll have tools to help cope with this. Negative self-talk, not speaking your truth, constant self-doubt, self-loathing, not feeling worthy, lack of boundaries, putting everyone else first, people-pleasing, low self-esteem, denial of God's love and who he sees you as, lack of self-care, putting others before yourself, not owning your value, and giving up your potential and your power, feeling inadequate, not meeting your own needs, being led by your ego, which is basically another word for, fear, and the lies and the limiting beliefs, and then living a lie, not being true to yourself and who you are. And then finally, listening to others instead of yourself. And so I'm going to give you an exercise to do right now. And I want you to just take a moment and take a big, deep breath. And you can write this down when we're done with it, because it's an exercise that we can do throughout our day for just awareness. Is hold your hands out, open your hands. And I want you to tell God these words. And you can close your eyes. I accept me and I trust you.
I accept me and I trust you.
I accept me and I trust you.
And I trust you.
I accept me and I trust you.
I accept me and I trust you.
And when we do this, we are allowing God to do the work in our lives. And this brings me to another release technique exercise called Ho'oponopono. Petra, have you heard of this exercise?
I've heard of Ho'oponopono.
Okay.
I think that's the right word, but
Yeah.
not the exercise now.
Okay. And I think when
Looking
Debbie was
forward.
doing some coaching with me, we worked on this, but I'll also include that link in the Self-Love 1.0 course. It's a wonderful exercise to do. It's a meditation you can do at night. It's very simple, but it's so beautiful. And if you give yourself some silence and solitude around it, it's amazing how the divine can work through that portal, and he can show you what you need to see. And then once you see it, then you can release it. It's a beautiful release technique called Ho'oponopono. And I have we're coming close to a close, but a quote here that is from the Greek word character. And character, if you just think about that word character, what your character is, it's all about who we are and what we're stepping into, and it should feel very powerful and energizing, right? So this quote says, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. And this can be translated as experience, right? So I think we all know that suffering does bring us to a different place than we've ever been before. But at the same time, it's also molding us and shaping us and our character to become something more and something greater when we embrace that And it really does allow us to develop perseverance. And that builds our character, right, and gives us hope. And so as we grow and develop through tough times, we become experienced in life and in our relationships and our skills and in overcoming obstacles. And all of these steps help build our confidence. But if we allow shame and disbelief and old stories and embarrassment of addressing what is, then we won't grow and we won't change and we won't get to where we want in life. And we won't be able to step into the confidence that we really are. So do not let your life be like a shooting star, which lights up the sky just for a brief moment. Let your life be like the sun, which always burns brightly in the heavens, bringing light and warmth to all those on earth. So I want to encourage you to let your light shine. And that is by Matthew Kelly, that last quote. So in closing, just on this, and then we'll have a conversation a little bit, is that self-confidence really is about belief in yourself and your value, and in your ability to perform and accept your worthiness and embrace it. And developing unshakable confidence is a lifelong process. And it's not something to beat yourself up with or about because you don't have it now. But there's an ever-present gift in allowing yourself to receive that gift now and trusting in your abilities time after time and not letting your doubts stop you anymore.